Hello, everyone. I just decided to pop up as I occasionally do. I had some time available. So, yeah, hello, and hope everyone is well this week. Yeah, and I've seen a lot of coverage about what happened to Salwan Momika, and that is just shocking and just further evidence that, as we all know, Islam is not a religion of peace. So yeah, I'm not sure how long I will be online. Just thought I'd come up for a short while. But what I will do is I will drop the link into the chat. So if anyone would like to hop on, I guess we can have a short chat. So yeah, this was very last moment, unplanned. And yeah, but anyone who would like to hop on, I guess is welcome, and we'll see where the conversation goes. I would prefer that you have your camera on so we can see you, and please have good audio. That really helps. So I'll give it some time for some people to pop in. So has anyone else heard what happened with Salwan? Of course, we've seen reactions from Muslims saying things that are quite shocking, basically defending his murder, basically saying, well, we really shouldn't burn holy books. Well, if people burn Bibles, there's no ruling that says to murder them. But of course, in Islam, that is the case. And I've also recently posted quite often on X about something that annoys me. It's the use of the term Islamist and Islamism, two things which do not exist. There are Muslims, there is Islam. These Islamists are Muslims following Islam. They're following the Sharia. They're following it strictly. They're following the Sharia faithfully. So when we use the terms Islamist and Islamism, we are artificially separating these things from Islam. And we're trying to pretend that they are doing something that is separate and nothing to do with Islam. And we're aiding and abetting this complete fiction. So it's dishonest, it is weak, and yeah, it's something that really should stop. I also am not happy with the term political Islam, because Islam is by definition a deen, a political system. So theology is something like 10th on its list of roughly 12 priorities. So religion is an optional component well down the list. And from a functional definition point of view, there are 9 other definitions, all related to warfare, government administration, ownership, subjugation, politics. Islam is a political system on par with Nazism, socialism, communism, fascism, no different. So welcome, Vexline. Alexander, welcome. Yep, so this was just an ad hoc thing. I just happened to have some time. I thought I would jump on. Jordan, welcome. Jordan says it's a hard pill to swallow because we want to pretend that there's hope with our neighbors, but there simply isn't. Their worldview is ultimately antithetical to ours. And this is unfortunately true. Now, of course, you can say, well, that doesn't apply to the individual Muslim I work with. But then again, some of those individual Muslims, well, when they catch a serial killer, it's always like, I didn't know he was such a nice guy. So single individual Muslims do not define what's in the Sharia. The Sharia defines what's in the Sharia. So the fact that an individual does not comply with, it doesn't follow the rulings, doesn't mean that the rulings don't exist or that the rulings say something else. It just means this person, for whatever reason, was not at that point in time compliant. Next line says, agreed, the terms political Islam, Islamist, etc., no good. Exactly. It's Islam. We need to be open about it. We need to admit it. We need to be honest about it. It is Islam. It is inseparable from Islam. It is obligatory, mandatory, integral to common or garden, normal, average, orthodox Islam. Good point there. Doomsday Planet, tall grass for the snakes to hide in. Yeah. So let's not let them hide it. We just need to speak the truth. That's all we can do, is to know the facts and to speak those facts. To know the truth and speak the truth. We need to start publishing cartoons. of Muhammad. We need to start, maybe, I mean, this is something for you yourself to decide, but burn a Quran, if that's what it takes, because they need to understand that we have a right to criticize things. Christianity has been criticized, it is criticized, but you don't hear people going namaste and then going on a stabbing spree. You don't hear people saying Buddha bless you and then going on a stabbing spree. You don't hear things like, even from other crazy groups, but yeah, you don't hear Merry Christmas and then someone goes and, on a stabbing spree. But you do know the last words you're likely to hear is Allahu Akbar, because that's what you hear shortly before the bomb goes off. That's what you hear shortly before the shooting starts or the stabbing begins. Yes, sadly, that is another artifact of Islam. That is just, and yeah. So we know what's happening in the UK, and what's interesting about the Crusades. The Crusades was necessary. Roughly 75% of what was known as Christendom, all of North Africa, and areas like Turkey, areas of the Middle East, of the Near East, were Christian. Those were conquered and those were subjugated under Islam. What was left was Europe. The Muslims had invaded Europe by the 600s. They'd invaded France. They were kicked out of France by 732. Charles Martel kicked them out of France. It took 700 years or more to kick them out of Spain. Now, the whole claim that, well, because of Western colonialism, Muslims are attacking other countries and they're doing things that are justified. Well, what were the Muslims doing in Spain in the 600s? What were they doing in France in the 700s? Obviously, they were doing jihad. So the Islamic jihad started 500 years before the Crusades. The Crusades was a 400-year delayed, late response to Islamic jihad, church burnings, something like 10,000 churches in North Africa, apparently. So the point I want to make here is that the Muslims didn't stop. They were stopped. They didn't stop of their own volition. They had to be stopped. Don't forget, in World War I, they fought on the side of the Germans, that's the Ottomans. They didn't stop of their own volition. They were stopped. And one way or another, the spread of Islam must be stopped. And if what we have to do and can do in our capacity is to speak the truth, is to spread the facts, is to correct the errors and attack the lies, then this is what we have to do. And the next line says, yes, 100%. They were all Christian areas. Exactly. That was Christendom. And imagine those areas were Christian today, like Europe. They would be so highly developed. Now they are backwards, wannabe caliphates. Alexander Damien says, I'm reminded of that woman who praised ISIS killing and raping Yazidi women on Momika's stream. How do we even deal with these people? When you watch Yuri Bezmenov and he's talk about people that are ideologically captured, even Jordan Peterson speaks about people that are ideologically captured. There's nothing you can do. You simply have to realize these are enemies. And one of the signs of a people that have been properly propagandized and weakened is that they can no longer recognize an enemy. They can't point to an enemy. And you'll find, in fact, that your political system, your media, your education system doesn't allow you to point to others. When I say others, we'll talk about people whose skin might be a little darker than yours, etc., etc. People from countries that are not as developed. And you can't say that is an enemy, that is an antithetical ideology. Because a successful propaganda campaign prevents you from actually identifying an enemy, prevents you from forming a response, prevents you from communicating with others that feel the same way. And whether by accident or by design, this is what is currently the social order. Now, of course, under the Emperor Trump, we may start seeing changes, but I recommend that while you have the opportunity, you start to change your perspective and you start to speak. You start to bring a new discourse. So you start saying, look, I'm sorry, but we cannot accept this, because it's always Westerners. And let's start with white people who are required to be tolerant. And then, of course, Westerners are required to be tolerant of others who are not as advanced. And then, of course, you're racist for thinking they're not as advanced, even when it's blatantly obvious. You see now all of how look at the air traffic control in the US, how the number of near misses, as they call them, which are near collisions, has doubled in the last 10 years. And also that's since Barack Obama, because he scrapped a lot of the requirements, the regulations, the rules. He wanted people of color to take over from white people, fired thousands of white people, refused access to those jobs for thousands of white people. And then, of course, you lower the standards and you say, well, we want people with mental disabilities and psychological issues and dwarfism to take over those jobs. And what do you get? Well, you get what we have now. Near misses, more plane crashes, and ultimately, yeah, things were just going to get worse. And at some point, you got to say, look, as you would say in Afrikaans, there's kak dit. So you got to call BS on BS, call it what it is, and ruthlessly get rid of it, take it out, call it what it is. It's a spade, so call it a spade. Yeah. Yes, Adam Alvarez, when they all get together, logic is out the window. Yeah, let me see. Welcome, Dragon. Good to see you. Yeah, it's the Islamic war cry. Yeah, we were very unfair to the Crusaders. They had good reasons to go to war, exactly. Actually, maybe I can bring up the Crusades document that I have. Let me see if these are the correct notes. I can't be sure. I doubt these are the correct notes, but let me bring up some notes and see if these are the correct ones. So this is interesting. This is something you may find of interest. So let me close that. Share my screen. So this is Ibn Khaldun. Now, Ibn Khaldun is a very prominent Islamic scholar, highly educated, highly recognized Islamic scholar. You can see this is his face here on the Tunisian dinar. Now, he wrote back in I think it's the 1400s, 13 or 1400s, he wrote that in the Muslim community, holy war is a religious duty because of the universalism of the Muslim mission. Because he says they have the obligation to convert everybody to Islam, either by persuasion or by force. Now, this persuasion is Dawah. This is to convince you. Now, remember, this idea of Dawah, this idea of Adab al-Jadal, their method of debate, their method of persuasion, it's a form of NLP. It's a form of rhetoric that's designed to convince you. But it's not designed to find truth or to present truth. It's designed to be effective, to move you to take a decision, to believe them, to accept. So, and yes, they are commanded to engage in jihad. Or Paul Wedding, you're very welcome. Thank you. It's easier to remember things when you just try to speak from the facts and just speak the truth. Yeah. So, by persuasion, now persuasion would be obviously we're being gaslit. You'll have Muslims who will go and do the most heinous crimes. They will do the most horrific deeds. And then, of course, you'll have other Muslims, like take Bushra Sheikh, and she will start to be an apologist for all of these things. She will muddy the waters. She will start to play the propaganda game. This is a 1-2 combination designed to confuse the issue and prevent an effective response. This is the game they play. Learn to recognize it. This is how it's played. So they say here the other religious groups did not have a universal mission, and the holy war was not a religious duty. That's to Jews, Christians, Hindus, and others, only except for the purpose of defense. You see, the person in charge of religious affairs in other religious groups is not concerned with power politics, because he's saying that these other religions, their religious interests are not aligned with power politics, with regional politics, with invasions. However, in Islam, caliphate and royal authority are united in Islam so that the person in charge can devote available strength to both of them at the same time. Now he says here, among them, royal authority comes to those who have it by accident and in some way has nothing to do with religion. And he says, they speak of not because they are under obligation to gain power over other nations. They admit here, he knew then. that other religions did not use their religious teachings to dominate militarily their regions. He says, as is the case with Islam, they are merely required to establish their religion among their own people. This is from the Muqaddimah, an introduction to history. So this is a man that's supposedly one of the first proper historians. I think he created the field we call historiography. So this is the classical Islamic history of the world. So yeah, and believe them when they tell you who they are, what they believe in, and what they're going to do. So let me see. Wilderness says we can't keep living in a fantasy of the future being nothing but peaceful coexistence, freedom, etc. That's not the position of too many of our enemies. Correct. And Vex says it's so sad. It would be amazing if a renewed crusade, least crusade attitude were to develop. Yeah, but that's been inculcated out of people, but it's still there. It's very much there. If it was trained out of you, it can be trained back into you. If there's a will, there is a way. And people go, well, look, there's so many of them and so few of me. Well, you have to have belief, because that idea of lack of belief is something that is part and parcel of a successful propaganda campaign. They make you feel despair. They make you feel isolated. Believe me, many other people feel the very same way. Now that you're living in the age of the Emperor Trump, you can start to say these things again. You can go on X, you can start to talk. So a little stone in the pond becomes a ripple, and that ripple becomes a wave, and that wave becomes a tidal wave. So yeah, and that one little stone, that pebble falling down the mountain, becomes an avalanche. So don't underestimate what you can do, how much change you can bring. Just be part of the change. Welcome, Andrew. Good to see you. Yes, false political correctness everywhere. Yeah, and we need to stand against it. We need to speak the truth. The truth is more important than feelings. War between cultures is human nature, has been like that for thousands of years. The modern humanists don't have a clue about psychology. Of course, yeah, they're materialists. They're lost. I mean, modern atheism, these humanists are materialists and atheists, and modern atheism is somewhere between Satanism and paganism. It's an odd mixture based on the idea of the church and religion, but it's utilizing the framework to impose this supposedly scientific framework. I mean, Marx is well known now to have sold his soul to Satan when he was younger. So, you've got this crazy alignment with Satanism and paganism in atheism, which is this humanist materialism. Europe hasn't begun to fight. Europe hasn't yet started fighting. The only reason these other people are winning is because no one is opposing them. No one is stopping them. People haven't begun to rise up yet. So the will has not developed in the government. And of course, the government is afraid of admitting its mistake. It's going to cover it up. Once people start to, well, let's say Donald Trump, the emperor, starts to deport students from universities that are supporting Hamas and supporting jihad, then of course what you're going to find is that once he's done it the first time, others may follow. Sean John says, bra, you are kak brave. Yeah, kak you negative. So brainwashing using the woke mind virus. Yeah, the DEI. Yeah, DEI needs to die. Dwarves. No, literally, it says in the FAA sort of document that they want to have people with mental illness and dwarvism. Like, why? So yeah, literally, it's in the document. So the Josian one says, oops, do you know if Reliance of the Traveler is translated properly? For the most part, yes. However, there are areas that he added things that actually are not in the original text, like with the definition of jihad. He inserted a section on the minor jihad and the major jihad, or the lesser jihad and the greater jihad. He added a section where he added the greater jihad, which is not in the original, and also this is heavily disputed in the Islamic text, that it's something that was made up much later. But yet the idea of overcoming your soul, overcoming your conscience, overcoming your unwillingness to kill, which is a requirement for jihadis, this is something that is actually necessary. So there's, on the one hand, it's based on weak hadiths, on the other hand, it's actually critically necessary. So no one ever accused Islam of making good sense. Like there are sections that are sanitized, there are sections that are minimized, but for the most part, it's a pretty good resource to work with. Yeah, Europe would have been overrun if the Crusades had not happened. Europe was not overrun for those reasons, and they tried. They kept trying into the 1600s, when they were stopped by the Poles and the Germans, the Battle of Vienna. Think about that. If they had not stopped them in Vienna, they would have overrun all of Europe. Muslims are definitely starting to attack. I mean, they always have, but they're trying to alter and falsely revise the Crusades history. But that's what I've done. I've done several episodes on that on my channel. So give me 1 second. I'll do it right now. Adam Alvarez says Salwan Momika was given an apartment in offshore, an Islamic area with 5,000 to 6,000 population. Wow. Made it easy to track him down. So maybe they made it easy. Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's like putting Romy Tobinson, which guy from the UK, into a prison where he just happens to be surrounded by jihadis, just by accident. Alan Robertson says, I live half an hour away from the crash. It was only a matter of time for such a tragedy because the planes are on a daily runway schedule and altitude. The military boys like to show off by getting close. Granted, however, they also weren't using transponders. They were using night vision goggles. Two, there were too few people in the air traffic control tower. There were 19. There was supposed to be 30, and there was one guy that was coordinating the planes and the helicopters. There was supposed to be at least two, and one of them had clocked off early. So yeah, so mistakes were made all the way up the chain, and this was an avoidable tragedy. Yeah, Dawah equals persuasion. So let me actually get to that in. Let me go here. Let me bring this up. Just bring up the definition of Dawah. This is not going to be it. I can find it. Find the full text. Okay, here we go. So, Dawah. Let's close that. So, within the Encyclopedia of Islam, Dawah is a call or invitation. So, that is correct. However, notice it is propaganda. Also, pretension. So, pretense, falsehood, deception, right? So, notice from the Abbasid era, Dawah was propaganda for a member of the Prophet's family and propaganda for the Imam, who alone could give mankind good guidance. So the Imam is allowed to use propaganda, pretension, invite you to Islam, but also deceive you, things like that. So there's this element of deception, element of pretense, element that of untruth in it as well. So yeah, propaganda, propaganda, propaganda. Think of that. So the reliance has many non-translated parts. They said because it's not relevant for modern Islam. That's not true. It's very relevant. It's not being applied right now, but they could apply it tomorrow. So not everybody is applying Sam al-Rasul, which is what happened to Salwan Momika, where he was killed for insulting Muhammad, Islam, and the Quran. But certainly some people are doing it. So these things are all valid. At no time has the Sharia been abrogated. At no time has Allah said no, that changes. They're meant to, at some point, implement all of it everywhere. Yeah, Dawah shows Islam is false and contradicts. So you explain that a bit more, Andrew? Let me see. The art of persuasion. Yeah, the art of deception. Actually, let me find here. Let me find you the right term. So, Jadal. So this is from the Adab al-Jadal, something important. So Adab or Sunnah, the method, the way, the habit, the custom. Jadaliyun, controversialists. These are people who dealt with very difficult topics. So these were people who engaged in argument, propaganda to overcome opposition propaganda, right? Or even overcome the truth. So let me see, but I have to go. So what they speak of here is, I'm not going to find this, but Jadwa, no, I need to find Adab al-Jadda. I'm going to find, here we go. So when you look at these terms, notice one of the connotations is mysticism, the norms of conduct which govern relations between master and disciple, and those between the disciples themselves. So they are supposed to initiate people. So you're looking at an element of initiation into a cult or initiation into a group, a Gnostic group, a mystical group. These are mystics, right? They're not necessarily attached well to reality, to logic. And in military science, the plural form of adab is a synonym of hiyal, stratagems in war. Hiyal is legalized legal trickery, deception. That's the umbrella term for how Islam is supposed to conduct its military campaign to subjugate the world, right? Stratagems in war. So it's one of the customs used in stratagems of war, Dawah. Now, adab al-Jadal in theology and in law doesn't separate the two. A method of debating in which we discussed questions that were controversial, so difficult issues regarding Islam. It is not a matter of finding the truth, just convincing the opponent. The art of persuasion, not the art of finding truth. So bear that in mind. You are dealing with a system that is 1,000+ years old, that has long practiced the art of lying to be effective at it. Has any Sweden public official come out to talk about this? You know, I am about to email someone in Sweden. He's an author, and someone connected me with them, so I might end up talking with them. I'll be emailing them and see how that goes. And then someone will send me an email to also potentially discuss with a politician in Sweden. So let me see if I can get them on the channel and we can have discussions about it. I mean, there are people talking about it, but they often get silenced, they get harassed, they get shut down. But what's odd is, for instance, Sweden set a world record this month, or at least a record this month, for the highest number of bombings. Sweden has more bombs going off than in a country at peace than any country that other than one at war. I mean, it's amazing just how much violence is occurring in Sweden, how many bombings are taking place, grenades and bombs going off, and you don't hear much about it. But Sweden has a serious problem with imported violence. Yeah, Bushra demands Sharia, but one day hijab should be stoned in a Sharia country. Granted, but she is given dispensation, because as long as faith remains in her heart, she can deceive outwardly, as long as she doesn't lose faith internally. And also given rukhsa azima, which is strict adherence to Sharia, and dispensation, rukhsa, she is allowed, and also utilizing the doctrines of taysir and darura, she's actually allowed to violate every single rule of the Sharia, every single rule of Islam, every norm in the service of Islam, given a reason. So she's allowed to do this. She can get away with it. She could eat bacon in public on a live stream and enjoy it and claim afterwards she was simply just following the doctrines of Islam, taysir, darura, azima, rukhsa. She's following rukhsa. She could say, no, I was simply doing it for the benefit of Islam, and that's it. But my faith remained in my heart. So yeah, Islam, you must understand, these doctrines allow for this kind of behavior. Yes, forked tongue. Sadly, that is the truth. Yeah, so there was this comment, yeah, that foreign powers were involved. So yeah, that one does worry if there are Muslims in the police. I mean, look, if you look at this within was it the Foreign Office or within the US, there was a report recently this week that came out of a network inside of the UK government of Muslims who had signed a pledge and agreed to work with each other to advance Islamic interests inside of the UK government. This is not the only such network, I'm sure. So yeah, it's a group. Mike Simon says Muslims only understand one language, violence. Sadly, it's a culture that reveres force. So in discussions I've had about Islamic governance, they say that someone who seizes power violently in a coup is legitimately in authority as long as he follows the Sharia correctly. He is a legitimate ruler. If he seizes authority violently, that's acceptable in Islam. It's normal. It's not unusual. I've covered this before in discussions on the Sharia, on jihad. So, yeah, unfortunately, these are different values embedded in these cultures than are in Western culture, in Christian culture, in white culture, European culture. And we believe that everyone is the same. But no, some cultures value deceit, they value theft, they value learning how to pickpocket. I mean, are we all going to pretend that the gypsies are all sweet and innocent? I won't. Another apostasy is an all-time high. The jihadis will become more violent because they need to create more fear. Yeah, yeah. The religion of 1,000 exceptions. Exactly. This is how a con artist works. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's hope Trump gets the fix a lot in the US. Let's hope he gets his nominations through because obviously they're being slow walked. So let me see. What am I? Anything I'm missing? Yeah, it's all of the West. We've got to find our backbone, and we need to speak up. And this is the sad thought, Alexander Damien. He says it'll be a bloodbath when the Europeans decide enough is enough. And this is not unlikely because when you aren't allowed to discuss things, what options do you have? If you go to prison for posting on Facebook, if you go to prison for posting on X, what are you left with? What options do you have? So, yeah, unfortunately, I know we'd like to see peaceful resolutions to these issues, but it may well come to that, unfortunately. And yes, we know that Europeans do know how to do things on an industrial scale. We have the evidence of the past for that, and that would be sad, but yeah, unfortunately, that's a risk. Unless we can talk about this, unless people are willing to say no. Yep, they hate the West, they hate Christianity, they hate Western culture. So anything that will dissolve and destroy Western culture is something that they are supportive of. They are nihilists. Ultimately, they're Satanists, whether they know it or not. Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, Islam has nothing to do with Islam. So yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I know of new discourses. James Lindsay. Yeah, I know a lot of his. I've watched a lot of his material. Not well. Yeah, that is true. But yeah, take a stand. Start speaking up. Let me see. Am I? So I won't go very long. I just thought this is just something to speak about. This Salwan Momika, but we need to start talking about this. If those in authority, there's some in the news, of course, that will start talking about this. Um, there are those that are willing to speak up on social media. Play your part. I mean, retweet, post, whatever, like things, but do do something to get involved. We need to talk about this. We need to be open about it. We need to speak about the Sharia. That really clarifies what Islam is, how evil it actually is. The specifics of Islam are contained in the Sharia. That's something you want to talk about, bring people's attention to. Stop getting into the little, this roundabout where you have someone mentions hadith and someone mentions another hadith. Look, Islam has a legal system. It is a legal system. Let's see what the legal system says. Let's see what they do in practice. Let me see. Of course, yes. Lying is permissible if the goal is permissible, and obligatory if the goal is obligatory. Now, for Islam to reign supreme is always permissible and always obligatory. For Islam to achieve its aims is always obligatory, always permissible. So that's a roundabout way of saying that lying is permissible at any time for any reason. Let me see. USA believes that the plane crash is terrorism. I haven't heard that. I haven't seen that. I'm not sure that there's necessarily evidence for that, but I mean, we'll see what the news says. Let's see. Yep, Reliance has a whole chapter on deception, holding one's tongue. And if you want more of that, you've got to go to the if you want to really find out about that in Islam, this one, let me find the right one. Let me go to page 108. If you want to learn more about lying in Islam, you go to what's called the Ihya Ulum al-Din. This is from Al-Ghazali. He's the Sheikh, not just the Sheikh al-Islam, he's the Hujjat al-Islam, the proof of Islam. So the revival of religious learnings, Imam Ghazali, Ihya Ulum al-Din. And this is volume 3. I'm going to go to page 108. You'll find it in my archive. False speaking is permissible. In other words, lying is permissible. And he says here, sometimes it becomes compulsory. And then false speaking is better than speaking the truth. Lying is better than speaking the truth. So it's not just in the Reliance. The Reliance is a compendium that points to a lot of Islamic doctrine. So this is several pages more detail that explains what's going on in a lot more detail. So false speaking is better than speaking the truth. And he says here, you can lie to say falsehood in battle, but also to compromise between two parties. So if two parties are disagreeing, as it says in the Reliance, when there's disagreement between two parties, you can use falsehood to settle the disagreement, to bring peace. Now, of course, do we disagree with Muslims about Jesus? Do we disagree about jihad? Do we disagree about finitude? Do we disagree about just about everything? So, of course, Muslims are then obligated and permitted to use falsehood to settle a disagreement. And the sooner that we realize that their morality is an inversion of Christian morality, it's an inversion of biblical morality, the better we'll be off. So false speaking is lawful. Lying is lawful. Why do you think it's so hard for me to find Muslims who are willing to just have a public discussion about the Sharia? They don't have to be experts on it. All we've got to do is read through these texts and have them give us their views. But of course, they'll disagree with me on social media, and then when I say, "Fine, let's have a little talk about this. Let's actually publicly on a live stream discuss all of this and see where we get," they somehow, aren't that willing to do so with me because they know what they will reveal. So the Prophet did not allow false speaking except in 3 cases: to bring a compromise between 2 parties at the time of war, and a husband and wife speaking a lie to his wife. And he says here, he who settles disputes between 2 parties is not a liar. So if you lie to settle a dispute, what disputes have you had with Muslims in the comment section before? Understand? So he's not lying because Allah forgives that lie, because he's doing good according to Sharia. So yes, that is true, Andrew. Reliance of the Traveler is a legal text. It's a legal text. If you go to law school, you pick up law books that cover law. You see, you don't pick up the Bible, and the judge doesn't read through the Bible through Leviticus and Deuteronomy and try to figure out how to issue a parking ticket. He goes to a law book. It has law written on that. And the Reliance of the Traveler is legal of Islam. Well, thank you, Rob Smith. Much appreciated. So let me see. Yeah, Malmo has a huge gun and grenade violence problem. Correct. 1 a day in Sweden, underreported. Yeah, I fully agree. Yeah. Yes, is well known. But I would leave someone like Osama Daktar or Adam Seeker to discuss this one. It was once the safest countries in the world, but yeah, Sweden decided to go insane. Yeah. The ends does justify the means in Islam. That is explicitly in the Sharia. So the ends does justify the means. That's one of the six pillars, or one of the six pillars of the Sharia. That the ends justify the means. Actually, let me try to find that for you. So let me just get hold of that. Let me try and find this. Let me try to see what reference that occurs in. If I can find the reference, and I can show you where it says that. The ends justify the means. It's in. Here we go. There we go. Found it. Okay. Let me just show you this. So, quite literally, the ends does justify the means. So, within the Sharia, you have certain pillars of the Sharia that define the foundation of the Sharia, right? So, all is permitted. So, for instance, two of the aims are listed here. That the aims are more important than the means. That you'll see something by the Muslim cowboy, that tweet, the Muslim cowboy, that says, let me just find something of his. So this is the Muslim cowboy. So he's I don't know, supposed to be an ex-Christian convert to Islam. And this is him. Right. A woman is a woman when they hit puberty. Making a certain age and number is arbitrary and makes no sense. Now, puberty is not an age. It's not a moment. It's a process that takes years. And yeah, so ask yourself, you know, ask yourself what he's doing here with this. Yeah, Aisha aged child, you know, Muslim cowboy. So notice the aims. Now he wrote a statement on Twitter that intention is everything. Intention is important. Well, the aims, the intention is more important than the means. So if the intention is to purify Islam or to praise Allah or to enhance the domination of Islam, then murdering Salwan Momika is fine because the aim is more important than the means. You see, and necessities permit the forbidden. So necessities permit the forbidden. So how do you define a necessity? Well, isn't that a little subjective? But it was necessary, you see. It was necessary because rukhsa and azima and taysir and darura and all of these doctrines, and they mixed together. And there you go. Bob is now your uncle. So understand. So this is from Shar'ani, who wrote the Mizan al-Kubra, the Great Balance of the Supreme Scales. And this discusses the doctrine of ikhtilaf, or difference, which reconciles the differences between the four schools of fiqh, right? The four schools of jurisprudence in Islam, so that they're not four separate religions that compete, but they are harmonious, on 85% of their rulings. And where they differ, these are minor issues that don't affect doctrine. So you see, it says here, comparative studies, right? The rulings of all four Sunni schools of sacred law as if they were a single school, treating their differences according to their difficulty as either strictness, azima, or dispensation, rukhsa. So Muslims that don't have what it takes, well, they can take the easy route to follow rukhsa. You know, that's why you have these champagne socialists, right? Because they can't do the hard work of, abandoning money and all that. So did I see Rebecca's live yesterday? Yes, I was on for a little while, but I joined another live, so I could only stay for about 15 minutes. But yeah, I saw it for while I was there. Yeah, they have trans in Islam. It's like, how did they become friends? You know, the Prophet's Republic, glad to see Sharia again being shown and exposed. Well, talk to people, share this, let people know. Yeah, Islam is not a simple religion. The Quran is unclear. Yeah, you get the hadiths, you get the tafsir, there's so many sources. It's incredibly unsimple. Let me just check the comments. I haven't missed anything. Nicely done. Thanks, HH. Well, good move. Islam does come by terror, and it's gonna. I mean, they'll do. Look, there are 14 kinds of jihad, right? Like 14, 13 or 14, depending on which scholarly source you check. So yeah, there's lots of room for different kinds, different ways of screwing you over, short of actually stabbing a knife in your back, which they will do too. So let me see. To attack Muhammad of the Hadith, would that still be permissible? I mean, you don't know. Look, they can say anything and just afterwards say, yeah, but. So understand, there's literally nothing you cannot violate in Islam. There is nothing that is ultimately sacred. Allah is different from God. Is good. God cannot be evil. God cannot be untruthful. So God has to be just. Whereas Allah has no such restriction. Allah can do literally anything. So Allah can do evil, be evil, do unjust things. There's a very different conception between Allah and the God of the Bible. Welcome, Honey Badger. Let's see. Yeah, without Christ, they're under Satan. Yeah, so let me see if I've missed any comments. Yeah, the Dawah won't touch the Sharia. And look, I mean, I'm happy to have the discussion. I have invited, over the years, in the comment section, I've invited hundreds of people. If you go to the first video I did with Rebecca Barsef, I must have left dozens, I mean, 50, 60, 100 invitations to Muslims that were commenting and to people who had a big mouth, and said, look, fine, let's do a public talk. You and me will just discuss the Sharia. We'll bring them up, we'll show the books, and we discuss. And how many offers do you think I got to accept? How many offers do you think I get on X? Like 0. Because immigration is a form of jihad. Hijrah is jihad. Hijrah is the first jihad. When they moved from Mecca to Medina and then took it over. Hijrah is jihad. You're welcome, Harry Flashman. Thank you. So let me see. What have I missed anything? Rasmus Paladin. Yeah, we need more Islamophobia. We definitely need lots more of that. So if we can increase the levels of Islamophobia, let us do that. Yes, Jesus saith to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man cometh to the Father but by me. Islam is not truth. No, definitely not. And yes, there is a clash of civilizations. So does anybody want to come up for 5 minutes? I dropped the URL for the studio link in the chat. I won't go more than another 10 minutes or so. If anyone would like to join in, I've just dropped it again. If anyone has any comments to make, welcome, F. Palmer. Is it a coincidence, Alan says, that there are 4 schools of jurisprudence in Islam, and Yuri Bezmenov has 4 stages in subvertination? Demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization. There's definitely parallels between what you see in communism. They're all Gnostic, they're all subversive. So there's definitely parallels. You can see them. Is it a coincidence? I mean, I don't know, but yeah, the 4 schools are not the ones that were the most correct. It's the ones who were the most persuasive. So the people who could BS the best, the people who could convert the most, that's what made them one of the 4 schools. So it's not based on truth. It's based on the ability to baffle people, BS. Yeah, and we need to be Islamophobes. We definitely. Bulkanal Hayat Kurtarir says, I'm saddened by the hatred and hostility that is. Again, I opened up with my discussion. I detest the word Islamist. There is no such thing. There never has been an Islamist. There never will be an Islamist. There are no Islamists. They are Muslims. There is no such thing as Islamism. There never will be. There never has been. There is Islam. They are Muslims practicing Islam. The term Islamist and the term Islamism are how weak Westerners aid and abet the jihad by pretending that what these Muslims are doing is not real Islam, has nothing to do with Islam. It's something separate called Islamism, a misunderstanding. That is a lie, that is a deception, that is false. That is absolutely false. It's an amateur level mistake where it's not a deception, a deliberate lie to confuse and deceive people. There is no such thing as Islamism. There never has been, there never will be. There is only Islam. There is the Sharia, there is Rukhsa, and there is Azima. Islamism is simply Azima, strict Sharia, strict Islam, correct, orthodox. So to use these terms is to pretend as if, no, Islam is fine. Let's invite the Muslims in, just not the Islamists. Let's leave them in Afghanistan. No, Muslims are the ones practicing Islam. Muslims are the one doing jihad. A group of Muslims are required. It is obligatory, it is compulsory that a group of Muslims must do violent jihad, or Allah will send the entire ummah to hell. So what they do is compulsory, it is necessary. So I don't want to hear this lie of Islamist and Islamism, at least not on my channel. Yes, correct. Username slappery ism on a word to try to create some kind of arbitrary distinction. It is use the right names, use the right terms. Stop lying for Islam. Stop undermining your own cause. Stop undermining your own culture by lying for your enemy, by supporting your enemy, by trying to pretend that Islam is peace, because that's all it does. Maybe, fine, everyone has their own views. Thank you very much, Adewale. So, thank you very much. The Muslims raised to LARP as Islamists are technically peaceful. Those practicing true Orthodox Islam are scary. Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, again, I dislike and I detest the terms Islamist and Islamism. They are fake, false, artificial terms describing something that does not exist. Alexander says, hey, Lord, would you happen to know how the Muslims infiltrated the information agencies, CIA, FBI? I mean, the Bush administration had a big role in that, unfortunately, but it started in the universities in the 60s with the Muslim Students Association. So you've got to look at the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is the big daddy behind a lot of this stuff. Like Hamas is part of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood has established hundreds of organizations. And when one is found and shut down, they open another one. And there's a whole spider web of these organizations. And these outreach movements, they infiltrate churches, they infiltrate aid organizations, they infiltrate the police, they infiltrate universities, they place their people. And the Bush administration, unfortunately, had a role to play in this. And of course, then you had Hussein, President Hussein, who was a little bit friendly to Muslims in the government, who had ties to places like Iran and Qatar and so on, who have their own agenda. And of course, eventually what happened was CIA, FBI removed all mention of jihadi terms, Islamic terms, Sharia references from their training manuals, because that's racist, right? To speak the truth, to know the facts, to be specific and detailed and clear about what Islam teaches about Islamic doctrine, and that was all taken out, and now they're learning a fiction. So it is compulsory to wage jihad. Jihad is compulsory. There is no argument. So, the Quran is not holy. In fact, the Quran says it is the generous Quran, or the Quran al-Karim. It's generous, but also Usama Daktok says the generous Quran. It's not the Holy Quran, it's the generous Quran. There's another term for it as well. You can say the Holy Bible, but the Quran does not want to be holy. Any recommendations to approach Muslims with the truth? Directly attacking Islam is usually not a good strategy from the get-go. Well, if you're nice to them, they'll lie to you and deceive you all day, every day. And the thing is, Westerners don't understand the third world mindset. The third world mindset is a lot more, shall we say, primitive than the Western world. So, for instance, I was in the Middle East and I was dealing with people. When you're nice to them and sweet to them, they'll ignore you. They'll think you're weak. They'll think you're stupid until you threaten to punish them, until you're harsh with them, rude to them. Then suddenly they'll hop and jump and respect you afterwards. So you need to understand, you're dealing with a different mind, a different mindset. When you're nice, they'll see that as weakness. Your politeness, your tolerance is a sign that you're stupid, that you can't tell when you're being played. So this is not to say it applies to every third worlder, but it applies to enough of them that you have a serious problem. So you need to understand, I come from the third world. And as much as I have an education in certain ways, there are other ways in which I know I am different. I can see the difference, I can feel it. So there are certain areas where third worlders are far more likely and will far more easily move to violence or move to aggression or move to deceit. And there's a level of tolerance and patience. So put it this way, to really make a joke and make it really simple. In the Western world, Billy, his mom teaches him to count to 10. The problem is Kapepwe from Afghanistan and Africa, his mother teaches him to count to 5. You see, so when Billy comes home with a black eye and a broken nose and 2 teeth missing, it's because his mom taught him to count to 10. See, maybe you need to learn to count to 4, or maybe even better, count to 3. Think about that. But yeah, look, be honest, know the sources, be blunt, and invite them to church. They've been lied to about the Bible. They've been lied to about Christianity. Ask them to read the Gospels. Just ask them to read the Gospels. Ask them to start with Matthew and read through. Just read it. Just tell them, hey, look, if your imam's been telling you stuff, how about you just do me a favor, just read this. Just read Matthew. Just do me a favor, spend the next couple of days, read this. That's all. Just tell them to read it and ask you questions and just follow up with them and invite them to church. We don't do that. But really, just do that. Give them a home to come to. And yeah. So, but yeah, look, I do polemics. I mean, I'm not really an evangelist, I would say, but so yeah. But if that's what you want to do, then just ask them to read the Gospels, to learn it from the source, rather than from a lying imam or a lying Islamic Dawah manual. Okay, so let me see. Okay, I have no idea what you said there, AE. So yeah, aorta. So let me find that reference about the aorta. Are we talking about Muhammad dying? So let me see. I'm actually trying to bring up my notes on the aorta. If I can find that. Okay, let me just bring this up. So if we look here, this is the death of Muhammad. I'm assuming that the conversation in the chat was about this. So it says here in Quran 69:44-46, if Muhammad had made up about us false sayings, we would have seized him by the right hand, and we would have cut from him the aorta. So if you go to Muhammad's dying words, right? So his last words are these: neither Jew nor Christian shall be left in Arabia. Keep giving the money to influence the Kafir ambassadors. That's the zakat, right? And bribery. So yes, I wonder what the Qataris and the Saudis are doing. Have you thought about that? Following Muhammad's last words. So now notice different Quran translations. If Muhammad had forged a false saying concerning us, we surely would have seized him by his right hand, and we would have cut his life artery, the aorta, right? So we'd have severed his life artery, meaning the aorta, his heart's vein, the aorta here. So Shakir aorta, and then you've got the Muslim commentaries that all says, and then severed Muhammad's life artery, the life artery of Muhammad, right? Would have severed his life artery, the aorta of the heart, if al-watin refers to the artery of the heart. So, yeah, when the Prophet became sick and his condition became serious, he requested his wives to allow him to be treated in my house, and they allowed him. He came out leaning on 2 men while his feet were dragging on the ground. Aisha said, I never saw anyone suffer more pain than the messenger of Allah. And he says here, I feel as if my aorta is being cut from that poison. Muslims will deny this up and down, left and right, even if you show them every single reference. They'll just gaslight you. This is the time when it has cut my aorta. This is the time when it cut off my aorta. So you've got Sunan ibn Majah, you've got all of these hadiths, you've got Sahih al-Bukhari, right? Of course, now it suddenly becomes Da'if al-Bukhari. In fact, I have Muslims going, you see, you quoted a Da'if hadith, you use Da'if al-Bukhari. I'm like, these Muslims are stupid. They don't actually realize it's Sahih al-Bukhari and they think it's Da'if because they don't actually know Islam. Um, yeah, me neither, unfortunately. I'm talking about Salwan Momika, right? Okay, so let me see. Okay, have I missed any comments? So thank you very much, Catherine. Yeah, I'll be doing another one for next week. I was trying to set one up for this weekend. As you know, I've just moved and things are a bit of a mess. This is the last room with this furniture missing. We put in a lounge table. We don't have lounge chairs. You have most of the furniture, and I'm waiting for a sofa to come back here behind me and a chair, and then I've got some other things. But this room is pretty bare, actually. It's pretty empty. So this will take a couple of months at least to sort out. But yeah, so I've been a bit disrupted because of the move, but things are shaping up. Now, his death was a tragedy, and it was preventable. Yeah. So let me see. Yeah, no, Daniel, he and I are supposed to do stuff, but he was extremely busy. The guy had two jobs. Things were very busy, but at some point I'll probably meet up with him. Um, Let me see. Have I missed anything? Okay. Looks like yeah, we do need to bankrupt them. I mean, why is it that we're sponsoring you? We're feeding the dragon. Crazy. Like you feed the dragon coal. That's crazy. Yes, and this does prove Muhammad was a false teacher. I feel as if my order were being cut. So yeah, this is the time when it has cut off my order. This is the time when it cut off my order. So yeah, I think there's no shortage of references to prove that Muhammad's order was cut exactly as Allah said if he were a false teacher. So yeah, no one's decided to come up. I wonder why we don't see attempts to do Dawah in Israel. Yeah, but yeah, Muslims are quietly for doing their little Muslim things. The Israeli Muslims are doing Muslim things quietly where they are. So I don't think it's not happening. It's just quiet. Right? So that's good to know. But yeah, but really, we do need to start having these talks and doing dawah of our own. We need to start showing Muslims the problems with Islam. I mean, something I posted today on X. Let me just go there. Something I posted today is this. Muslims, for instance, believe in this Injil. Now they say the Bible's been corrupted and so on, and we don't have an original Bible. But apparently they used to have one, but they can't show us. So think about this. Historically, Islam is so weak. Now, where is the Injil? Muslims believe in Injil as a divine revelation, yet they base this belief on a text for which they can provide no historical evidence to prove its existence. Nothing whatsoever. There is no original or ancient copy of this book known to exist. It is not referenced in any historical records, yet they claim it's real. They claim it was the original. They claim it was the common one that was corrupted. Show us the evidence. So you've got empty claims of corruption. You've got empty claims of a book that there is literally no proof for. So therefore, Islam is based on myths. It's based on things they cannot prove. It's based on things that have no evidence whatsoever. So this just undermines Islamic claims, and this is just one of many such things that you'll find are issues with Islam. So, so yeah, where was I? I was supposed to do something some time ago, but that never materialized. So let me see. So is all the aid paid to Islamic countries considered jizya? Yes, of course it's jizya. Of course it's jizya. Itai, with Daniel. Yeah, Daniel. So let me see. Um, yeah, no, to Muslims can and will lie to you to resolve an agreement, to a disagreement. It's obligated. Injil is under the throne of Allah. Yeah, sure. Where? Give me a copy. I want to see a book. Nathaniel says, a little bit of topic. Do you know if Sharia, the idea of slander and libel are similar to our Western concept? No, they are the exact opposite. Let me go there. I'll do this as the last thing, I think. So slander in Islam is something called ghibba. Let me just close that. Okay, so there are 15 references to ghibba here. Just so they speak here of lawful and unlawful slander. So notice they speak of unlawful slander. So you must understand that therefore, hold on, let me bring this up. Slander is called ghibba. Now, this is unlawful slander, which also tells us there is lawful slander, right? There is lawful. So if you do something to annoy Islam, to annoy Muslims, they can lawfully slander you. They can use slander against you. It's a complete opposite. It is the total opposite of the Western concept of slander. See, now this context here is about dead. There's context of a dead person in this example, but don't let Muslims tell you it's got nothing to do with ghibba. If he notices something good, it is sunnah to mention it. But if you notice something bad about a Muslim, it is unlawful to mention it. So don't speak about the bad things that Muslims are doing. Don't mention evil things they do, because that'll bring shame on Islam, honor killings, right? You can go and kill them, of course, if they're doing bad things, but you know, if they're violating Islam, but if they're apostates and so on. But notice, to mention something bad is unlawful. This is slander. So to mention something about someone that is bad but true is slander. In Western law, to make up a lie, a falsehood that hurts someone's reputation, damages them because it is false, is slander. In Islam, slander is something that is true. It is the entire exact opposite. So slander is called ghibba. You can see this here, meaning of slander, and listening to slander. Muslims are not allowed to listen to slander. So when we speak about the Quran, when we speak about Muhammad's immorality, that is slander. We are slandering Muhammad. Why? Because it's true. When we mention historical errors in the Quran, when we mention problems, the differences between the 45 different official variants of the Quran, that is slander because it is true. Do you understand the problem we're dealing with here? So let's have a look here. Ghibba, slander. So slander means to mention anything concerning a person that he would dislike. So it's not something that's untrue, something you wouldn't like said. Like, hey, Ahmad over here was stealing money from the till, you know, and Hamad over there was diddling a 4-year-old. That's slander, because not that it's false, it's because it's true. Do you see the inversion, the problem within Islam? So hopefully, Nathaniel, that answers your question. Islam is almost no tethering to the truth. Exactly, it has no tether to the truth. So, yeah, another level of how terrible Islam is. Yet no amount of rules or theology or laws can save Islam. No, Islam needs to be destroyed. Islam must be destroyed. It needs to be exposed, destroyed, and banned and thrown out of Western countries. It needs to be driven back to where it came from, to slither back into its hole. So yeah, let me see. The meaning of backbiting. Backbiting is very similar. So let me see, backbiting. Let me find the references if I can. Slander, going about the tales. The Muslim is the brother of the Muslim. He does not betray him, lie to him, or hang back from coming to his aid. But he will lie about him to defend him. So we can see that as well. If we go here to the Ihya Ulum al-Din, you'll see here, let me just find this. For instance, have a look. Now this takes us, all of these interlock. You must understand, all of these doctrines interlock. They work together. They're not isolated. So there is no sin in that falsehood which benefits a Muslim. There is no sin in a lie which benefits a Muslim. What could that mean? And then some dipshit, like the World Couple on Rebecca Bart's comment section, you know, one has to interpret these things. And how can you just say that this means that? Because it takes decades and years to learn this, and these things have to be interpreted and Basically, it's a Muslim pretending to be a Christian, telling us that it doesn't mean what it says. That's all. Gaslighting. That's all they do. They're really good at it. They lie to themselves. They lie to others. Don't believe them. So there is no sin in the lies that you tell which benefit a Muslim or removes a harm from a Muslim. Is that clear, or is that in need of interpretation? I don't think it needs interpretation. To disclose an obscene act is also an obscene act. Oh, Muhammad's been diddling 2-year-olds in the UK. He's been graping young girls as early as the age of 9. Don't say anything, because it is obscene of you, Mr. Muslim, to say what another Muslim's been doing. That's an obscenity. Rather, that guy does the deed than you talk about it, because you would then be doing something obscene. Do you see the moral problem here? Every man should save his honor by taking recourse to falsehood. Every man, not some men, not sometimes, everybody should lie to save their honor. See, if an inquiry is made to you about a secret thing of your brother Muslim, you can deny it to preserve his honor. You can lie to defend other Muslims. If harm is caused more than benefit in the case of speaking the truth, then you can avoid speaking the truth. Islam explicitly permits, teaches, and obligates lying. So understand that when you start talking to someone on a debate or a discussion about Islam, they open the conversation with, hi, I'm a Muslim. I'm going to lie to you about everything. I'm going to deceive. I'm going to misrepresent. And I'm going to deliberately gaslight you. Please enjoy the conversation. So yeah, be aware of the issues here. So yeah, guys, maybe I should call it a night here. All right. So yeah, so okay, no one came up. I did offer you guys the opportunity to come up. I did paste the link in the chat once or twice. No one popped up, but yeah, hopefully you've learned something about Islam. Hopefully this has been beneficial to you. Talk to people about the Sharia. These sources are all available, and yeah, let's talk about this. Let's publish this on social media. Copy and paste these. Use screenshots. Contact me, whatever it takes. But let's just get this out there. If everybody posts it, it can't be ignored. And build the momentum. Seriously, you never know when you reach the tipping point. But I think we're close to the tipping point. I think that we're getting to a point where everyone is just sick and tired, up to here with Islam. Yep. Arab communities in Israel have a huge crime problem. Yep. Yes. Exactly. We've just seen why they don't cooperate. They're not allowed to. So it's like a mafia. It's literally like a mafia. So yeah, guys, thank you very much. I hope that was interesting. And the cat lady, welcome. I am too shy to talk. Okay, well, pity. Yeah, so guys, I will call it a night here. I'm a super mufti. Thank you very much. Yeah, so guys, please do like, do share, tell people about this, talk about this, talk to other channels about it. I'm happy to come and talk about the Sharia, as long as these people are open to some very uncomfortable, very harsh facts. But Islam needs to be destroyed. Islam must be destroyed. Islam is evil. It is an inversion of everything that is good. It must be destroyed. Muslims can be very nice people. I know very nice Muslims. But Islam as an ideology, these are people who are good despite their ideology. These are people who are simply following God in a because, as we know, as we say, we are created in the image of God, and they feel that His morality written on their hearts, and they are following. So, guys, yeah, Islam wants to turn into psychopaths. So, guys, good night, God bless, and I will see you tomorrow night with Usama Daktok. We're going to be talking about Muhammad, the miracle worker. So, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.